Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
And hello and welcome again to another episode of SuperConnectivity. I am your host, as always, what am I today? I'm the chocolate-covered Charlie Esser. And with me, as always...
the flipping Phil Parrish.
The flipping Phil Parrish. Perfect. So, big news for this week is Agent Carter has her world premiere. I think I am not alone in saying that it was pretty awesome. It did better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does in the time slot, so that's good. So it's obviously has a bigger and broader appeal, which, if that maintains, could mean that we will be getting our long-term Agent Carter series, which I think we all desperately want. Well, I shouldn't say we all, because obviously I'm one person. I'm big, but I'm not everyone. So I would really like to see an ongoing Agent Carter. I'd love to see them get into the 40s and into the 50s of Marvel Comics and superheroes. But how about you, Phil? What did you think?
Oh, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I think I might even enjoy it more than the regular Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series, which looks like America agrees with me.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think what sort of helps Agent Carter is because it's set in the 40s. It's got this almost, I don't want to say steampunk because it's not really steampunk. It's maybe diesel punk. It would be a better term for it. But it seems to be a lot more hopping into that edge of science world, like it's super science that looks really different than what. I think that's actually sort of what maybe hurts Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a bit is that, S.H.I.E.L.D. tech, it's all pretty amazing,
Mm-hmm.
but part of you is looking at it, it's like, well, yeah, they could have that. Like the Seven Dwarfs. Yeah, those guys. I've seen hovering drones, and I'm sure they could have sensors and stuff like that. It's not as impressive because the distance between what is real and what they have is so much less now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like it's the magic computer theory, that we accept the idea of hackers in movies just having this amazing power to control stuff with their computers. Now, of course, real computers can't do that, but we can imagine them doing that so easily that it's not even science fiction that they have that. So you see Jarvis on that when Tony's talking to Jarvis in Iron Man or any other similar kind of system, it doesn't seem that much different than the various AIs on our phones. It seems, oh, okay, yeah, it doesn't seem as far off in the future. Whereas when you go back to the 40s and they start doing these things and it's all got that real kind of retro tech look to it, you get the jump. You get that sense of the jump of science and the jump of technology. I mean, I just love when they have the Vita ray detector and it's got that it's just such a 1940s kind of script for Vita ray detector. And it's, which is not just interesting that oh, hey, they have a Vita ray detector, but that apparently Vita rays are so common that there's a marketing department working on the fonts for the Vita ray detector. Trademark Stark Industries Vita ray detector. And great to throw in Vita Rays because that is that I think is always the problem with the Hulk is that since gamma radiation is a real thing, like cosmic radiation,
Hmm.
when they have it do magical stuff, people are like, I'm going along with it because I love the idea, but we know that's really just fake. But since Vita Rays are not a real thing, they can be just as magical as we want them to be. So they can make Captain America and amazing bombs.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thought anyway. But yeah, so I think Agent Carter is a big hit. I think it's going to continue to be a big hit, and
Well, do you think,
at least that's my hope.
yeah, well, I was gonna say, do you think that maybe the thing that people liked about the show, that since it's only 7 or 8 episodes, that they're not dragging a story across 22 episodes, they're getting right to the point, and it seems more fast paced and.
Well, yeah, well, that is, I mean, I think definitely, it's sort of, well, here's what I'll say is I think that, like this season of Shield has been like that,
Mhm.
and I think that, yeah, I think that what it is that, the first season of Shield had this problem that they really did have to build the universe out. They did have to build it out, and it was a much bigger task than people give it credit for.
Mhm.
Because people are thinking, oh, well, no one's coming into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that didn't already see Avengers and didn't already do this and didn't. But I really think that they kind of felt, well, maybe that's the case, but we do want to make sure that we're building this world right because this is going to be the foundation. And I really feel that these TV shows are the foundation on which the MCU is going to be built up upon because this is where they're going to be getting into a lot of backstory and small story that you're just not going to have time to play out on the big screen. So I think that Agent Carter sort of gets that advantage because we've already gotten Agent Carter backstory on Shield. We've already gotten Agent Carter backstory in Captain America and in both Captain Americas because we also got her again in Winter Soldier. And her universe is also sort of being allowed to pull much more from the Marvel universe. I think that the scientist that they talked to that was Whiplash's father, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what I got because
Yeah,
they called him
yeah,
Vanko.
Vanko. Yeah, I believe that was. I'm forgetting the actor who played Whiplash in the movie now.
Oh yeah,
Uh, the wrestler. I know. Blanking on his name. I know his parts, but I can't remember his name. But but there was his father, and which was a great little tie-in there.
Mhm.
So you have this much more built-out universe that Agent Carter gets to play in. That I think Agents of Shield, had to build up for themselves and for everybody else. So I think that that faster pace is great, and I think you're going to see that more when I'm going to think you're going to see a lot more of that when Agents comes back after this, and I think that that's going to be the way that these stories go here on after for Daredevil and everybody else. That they're going to be these faster paced, getting to the story because they're going to assume if you're watching this that you've already it's sort of like comic books themselves. They do recognize that every comic is somebody's first comic, but at the same time they don't worry as much because they know once you come into a comic book store, you're already into that universe of idea. You're going to be coming in and you're going to accept what that universe has to offer. And so I think that you can get right into the nitty gritty of any story, even while you're giving little bits of backstory here and there. You don't have to worry about whether or not people are going to ask who's the big purple guy with the antlers. Uh, I think that's where Agent Carter has that advantage of not being like if they had done the Agent Carter series right after Captain America, I think then that it would be having that problem of that first season of Agents of Shield where it was it seems slower because it had to make sure that it built everything up that people were coming in to see, oh, okay, now I know what a Stark is and what a Vita Ray is, whereas here, honestly, they were just throwing out Vita Rays as if, yeah, we all know what those are. No one's going to question this, and that's its advantage because it's already if you're watching Agent Carter, it's assumed you already at least have an acceptance of the concept of this universe, whereas Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had to prove the concept of its universe to people. If that makes any sense, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but
Uh,
I remembered the name for Whiplash. It was Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke, yes. Yeah. Did he die in that movie? Or is he out now? Because of course Hydra would have busted him out.
Yeah, no,
When
I don't think he died because didn't the while he was controlling the drones and everything, didn't Black Widow go to get him?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen Iron Man 2.
Mm.
Uh, I should watch it again. That should be my homework. Find out how many villains are still in the MC universe. Because actually, as I think about it, I think most of the villains do survive at the end. I think the only villain that's actually died. I mean, Red Skull technically went into a portal, and so he might not have actually died.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only one that really probably died was Killian. Although, maybe he could rebuild himself from whatever
Yeah.
was left. I don't know.
Or
Thinking,
Obadiah Stane.
oh, Obadiah Stane is dead. Yeah. Poor Obadiah. Yeah. Of course, that was always my theory. I was wrong about one of my many theories. I was wrong about was that Coulson actually died in Iron Man 1. And that the Coulson we see at the end of Iron Man 1, that was actually the LMD, and that he had just always been an LMD. Because if you see his first appearance as Agent Coulson, he's a much more sort of mild-mannered guy, very much seems like a bureaucrat, like when he's trying to explain the strategic homeland intervention, espionage, and he said, we're working on a better name. And then of course at the very end he comes out and he's like all suave and dapper and says, oh yeah, we got a better name. We're S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah. And so I was like, if they really wanted to pull something on you, that would be a great thing, that Agent Coulson was the LMD all along. Sort of like how people feel about the Koenig brothers right now, that they're just the LMDs all along. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. With Agents of Shield, with Agent Carter of Shield, or no, sorry, just Agent Carter, because she's actually in the SS Strategic Scientific Reserve. So, and great seeing her crew there. That's actually one thing. Slate gave a really bad review to this, and I was like kind of disappointed when I read it, because I do like to read reviews of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they focused on was just how very sexist all the men seemed to be in this world. And well, I get their point that they felt that it would made everything too black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt that is much more realistic than people even realize.
Well, yeah, it was the 1940s.
Well, exactly. And I think that, by and large, I think that people were so casually sexist, that they just didn't even think about it. And
well, they didn't.
people were just that casually racist because, we have movies of that, where,
yeah.
at the podcast of it, in White Christmas, I think, with Bing Crosby doing a whole blackface routine or something. And it's just like, oh my goodness.
But yeah, they didn't know they didn't know any better. I mean, I don't think the word sexist even existed back then, did it?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it existed. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's sorry. Yeah, no, it was just that bad, and I think that that's something that people should recognize, and I think they do a great job of really showing how little respect women in these, especially in these male-dominated worlds, were, and how much you had to fight to get where you wanted to be, especially, and you had to play, and this is because they were making this point about, oh, well, she's a woman in a man's world, so she has, and but all she does is play by the men's rules, and it's like, well, of course, because it's a man's world,
Mm-hmm.
And like now, maybe you could use more soft power, but that's not going to be as respected in the 1940s as it would be for Agent Carter in the series, So I really felt that they missed the point with that. They also didn't seem to like the action sequences, and I thought the action sequences were just amazing in this.
Oh yeah.
And when they did the interplay with the Captain America radio show having the fight and her having the actual fight, I thought that was just such a beautifully directed, choreographed, and cut scene. That was just wonderful. Honestly, I think they should definitely send that scene up for an Emmy, because that should be their for a technical Emmy. For whatever it is that gets an Emmy for. I just thought it was just such a perfect scene.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna kick the radio at one point.
Yeah. Oh.
Did you see that night? I recorded it. Did you see Haley Atwell was on Jimmy Kimmel's show that night?
Oh man, I did not get the chance to watch it. No,
was-
I really wanted to, but I was exhausted because I actually have to sleep at night now because now that I work a day job, I used to work a night job. Now I work a day job, and it's playing havoc with me. But yeah, I assume she was wonderful.
Oh yeah, I recorded it also because I have to get up early. I watched it the next day, but she came out and Jimmy Kimmel's like, I thought you were gonna come out here and kick my butt, and then she was like, oh, I could have. She goes, you know what I've been doing all week? And he's like, what? She's like, oh, I've been kicking stuntmen in the balls.
Well, that's what superheroines do. Speaking of superheroines, just to make a quick shift, I want to talk about the new issue of Squirrel Girl that just came out. I don't know if you've read it, Phil.
No, I have not.
I highly recommend you do, because my real feeling on this, and it may only go 12 issues, who knows, because this is how books that I really, really love do. It so captures what I think Marvel does amazingly well when they do a light touch self-referential book, because a lot of times, like when you read like John Byrne's She-Hulk, and I love John Byrne's She-Hulk, so don't get me wrong, or some of John Byrne's Fantastic Fours, because he actually did this with Fantastic Four as well, where the characters wink at the audience and know they're in a comic book and things like that. Although that's usually from the perspective of these characters are being written about by the Marvel writers in the book, and that they're real people in the Marvel universe, but they're going to interact with the writers who've been assigned to tell their stories at Marvel. I've always thought that was an interesting thing that Marvel sort of came up with, which was that that the heroes were real and the writers were just the people that were assigned to chronicle their stories, sort of like, it's sort of like as a news, almost as a news magazine. Comic books were in the Marvel universe.
Like back in the 80s when Steve Rogers was drawing Captain America comic book.
Yeah, stuff like that. It was very, very interesting. Really enjoyed that. But anyway, so Squirrel Girl, she never really ever talks to the audience, and I think that's great. But she does these things, like she's got Deadpool's trading cards, like Deadpool's villain trading cards. These which obviously is a wink to Deadpool, who is who is a comic aware character. Sort of the ultra-violent version of Ambush Bug, if anyone's ever read Ambush Bug over in DC. Best thing DC ever did, by the way, was Ambush Bug. And I stand by that. And I actually do like some DC. I know I got into the whole thing about being a Marvel guy over at DC, but I do like a lot of things that DC has done, but Ambush Bug is still my favorite. But so DC put out another Ambush Bug. But Squirrel Girl, she is so exuberant, as she always is, about being a superhero. Well, at the same time, and this is actually interesting, because in speaking of Agent Carter, right, and wanting her to not play by the men's, kick him in the balls rules, well, that's sort of what Squirrel Girl does in this story, because of course she is facing Kraven the Hunter, and sort of has to, and rather than just kicking him in the balls and defeating him, as we are so well known for Doreen Green to do, she actually just sort of talks to him, figures out what his why he's being such a jerk, and then sort of gives, sort of talks him into doing something to get him out of the off of Empire State University campus, which I thought was just such a brilliant way to sort of present a character who was going to deal with problems in a new and different way. And it's just delightful and funny and so well drawn for a character. Oh, and they have confirmed, I don't know if it had been confirmed prior to this, but that yes, Doreen's tail is actually physically attached to her. That is a real tail. That is her tail. So, but I was so in love with, and they had a thing where she's saying she's tucking it in her pants. Because, of course, you can do that in comic books, It's like how Steve Rogers puts his unbreakable shield over his shoulders underneath his suit jacket, It's, yeah, sure, it's an unbreakable shield that's, clearly, wider than his shoulders probably are, but he still has full range of motion in a jacket, and you don't have a big bulge of a shield behind it somehow. But yeah, so that's of course comic book logic, but and I don't know if I think they've done that in the movies at least once, although I think they at least had him had a trench coat when he did that, sort of with the universal trench coat of hiding that they have in comic books. If you have a trench coat on, you can't, a trench coat and a floppy hat, you are completely unrecognizable in comics.
Invisible.
No, they can see you, but everything's shadowed.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yes, I actually once made a whole thing about that. Basically, to understand how that works is you have to think about comic books existing in a two-dimensional universe, that the universe exists only in two dimensions. Even though they think they move in 3 dimensions, they're actually only 2 dimensions. And so anything that obscures something completely obscures it. And that's why the glasses work for Clark Kent, because in 2 dimensions, you've put a block in front of his face. And so he's completely unrecognizable.
Oh man, 2 DC references from you today.
Oh yeah, it's like I'm a nerd. I'm a broad range nerd. I know about DC. I do study DC. There's a lot of things I like about DC. I just don't have enough money to be a DC fan because I'm already a Marvel fan. Mm-hmm. And I'm already invested in the Marvel universe. I've already got that backlog that I know who is who and what is what. And when I'm going in to plop down my now $5 a book or $4 a book or $3 a book on a good day, you get those $3 books. That's like Christmas for me. When I put that money down, I want to continue the stories I already know. And when I pick up a new story at DC, I love it, but it's like, I'm not as married to it because I haven't with Superman and Wonder Woman and The Flash and Batman and Green Lantern and all of them, But every so often, especially when I get a little flush with cash, I do like to start picking up DCs. And I know I read Green Lantern for a while. I read Impulse. I really like, things I liked that no one else did was I enjoyed it when Wonder Girl became Wonder Woman. I read that book for a couple issues. I enjoyed it when Impulse became The Flash, and I read that book for a couple issues. And, I always like that's one thing I do like that DC does, where they do have that next generation taking over more often than really most any other comic book company does. I think that DC is happy to embrace that idea. Although it's always a problem with Batman because they always go back to Bruce Wayne. And at this point, he must have been, it's like it's so hard to figure out, like, how is, Nightwing his ward, like, how are they not like just 2 guys of the same age when they start,
Yeah.
But that's Batman. Of course, and still love Gotham, like the new episode last week with Gordon at the Asylum. That was pretty awesome. And we have our first supervillain. And this was also the first time I think where Penguin refers to himself as the Penguin, which is interesting. So we're definitely building out the rogues gallery there. Just go all off the map today, So but that was good, man. I love Gotham, and even teenage Bruce has grown on me so much. It amazes me sometimes. I'm like, wow. I'm really liking Teenage Bruce, and I'm even liking, Teen Ivy and Teen Catwoman. It's like, wow, I really wanted to hate you whippersnappers, but you know what? You've grown on me. Way to go, DC. Way to go. You're melting this old Marvelite's heart.
And if you want to hear more, listen to Before the Bat, the Gotham podcast, also on Southgate Media Group.
Yes, everyone should do that right now after the show. So, Phil, what did you read that really struck your fancy this week?
You know what really impressed me was Ant-Man #1.
Oh, yes. I haven't read that one yet. I have it at home. I'm waiting to read it when I get home tonight.
Yeah, it's really good. It's Scott Lang. He's basically out of work, and he's trying to juggle being a father and looking for a job and being a superhero. And then a job opening comes up as like a security chief, I think, for Tony Stark. So we get a guest appearance by the very arrogant, superior Iron Man.
Oh, pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so we might get an Ant-Man, Superior Iron Man throwdown in the upcoming pages. That could be cool. Now, here's a question for you. Now, did you read Ant-Man's storyline in FF?
I really didn't read FF. Like, I got I got a couple appearances and when he was in Fantastic Four. But yeah, I didn't read the FF series. But
okay, well, because they did some really interesting things with Scott Lang, which I felt were very interesting, were very good. Oh, is he still dating Ms. Thing in this? I'm actually trying to remember the character's name now.
They didn't make any reference to it. It was basically, like I said, besides him trying to get the job, it was him trying to be a father to his daughter and like having to deal with his ex-wife.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they didn't make any mention of him.
Oh, yes, because the last, and actually when Cassie came back after Access, I'm trying to remember the character's name. Yeah, she's sort of like supposed to be like a Lady Gaga type musician, rock star.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and she also has an old Thing armor that she wears when she goes into battle, and she actually has Thing rings that do their thing, which was my favorite part in FF when they say, okay, so what we've done is we've taken the Thing armor that you wear into battle, and we've used Pym particles to shrink it down, and you can just release them by taking these two rings and clasping them together. And she says, okay, Thing rings, do your thing, which was wonderful for anyone who actually watched the old Thing cartoon show with Benji Grimm. So many years ago. That was the Thing Shmoo Power Hour, I think it was called, because they also did a Shmoo cartoon that was associated with that. Oh my goodness. So, that's pretty good. So one thing I wanted to do this week is I wanted to do a shorter podcast because, as I said, I recently took a day job as opposed to my old night job. And part of my new day job is that I got a much shorter lunch. And I realized that it's very hard to listen to a long podcast. So I'm going to call this the podcast now. So we have a nice short podcast that hopefully you on your half-hour lunch break got the chance to listen to. And if people like the shorter version, I'd like you all to tell us that, hey, we like having the shorter version. And if you say, no, we want you guys to just ramble on for hours on end, as most comic book podcasts do, feel free to let us know that. The important thing is that if you like this podcast, reach back out to us and tell us what you like and what you don't, because we're here for you. What do you think about that, Phil?
That sounds good. Do you have an email or anything where they get hold of you?
Well, yes, you can always reach out to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. You can also friend me on Facebook at Charlie Esser on Facebook in Newark. Superconnectivity and using the email address superconnectivityblog@gmail.com to look me up, friend me there. That's my show page. And I will always friend you there, even if I don't always friend you if you find my real secret, actual Charlie Esser in Newark page. Got to be my real friend. Everyone gets to friend me on Charlie Esser with the black and white pictures. And of course, I always tweet. I tweeted Agent Carter, like I always live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at Charlie Esser on Twitter, because I am the first Charlie Esser on Twitter, and I'm very proud of that. How about you, Phil? How can people reach you to tell you how wonderful you are?
Well, they can get a hold of me at nightwingpdp@gmail.com, or you can get a hold of me on Twitter at nightwingpdp.
So very good. So we will.
So if you can't find the real Charlie Esser, contact me and I will forward anything to him.
Very good. Okay, so there's always more connections to make, but that's enough for now for our abbreviated podcast for your lunch half hour. Hope everyone enjoyed, and we'll see you again next week. I have been the chocolate-covered Charlie Esser.
Wow. And I'm the flipping Phil Parrish.
And this has been SuperConnectivity. Have a great night.